Well, hey, this is Dr. Rhonda Simmons, and I am so glad to be with you again for another edition of Empowered Heart to Heart. I am so glad you're here. I've got great things in store for you today. But before we get started, please make sure that you like, comment, and share this video if you're watching on our YouTube channel or if you're listening to our podcast. Make sure you bookmark it, like and comment and share this particular episode because it's going to be epic. Also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you'll be notified every single time I upload a video because it's stuff going on all the time here at Empowered Heart to Heart. And I'm glad you're on the journey with me. Hey, if you want to be on a show, reach out to me on our social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. I guess I should say X, uh, because we're out there. Our handle is TSEFIORG. All one word, no spaces. That is the acronym for the Simmons Empowerment Foundation Incorporated, of which I am the founder and CEO. I am so glad you're here because I am telling you on every single episode, we have an epic time. And then when I get to have guests on the show, it's even better. I've said this multiple times before that I have met some of the best people this side of heaven. I've had the opportunity to interview people from all over the world. And thank God, even though our podcast is over 2 years old, almost three, we have been global for about half of that time, so well over a year, and I am thrilled about it. We've got people listening from the UK, from Germany, from Finland, from Uganda, even a couple of downloads from China. And don't tell anybody, somebody in Russia downloaded me too, but we're not going to let anybody know. And so I am so glad to have so many people listening. That just reassures me that we are giving you quality information here. It's important to me. I don't like just wasting time and wasting breath. You have so many options out there of podcasts and YouTubes, but I thank you because you stopped scrolling and you pushed play, and here we are. And so today I am so excited because, oh my goodness, I have a special guest. Her name is Christy Kennedy, the image confidence expert. Yes, the expert. She is a TEDx audacious leadership keynote speaker and an authentic lifestyle author. She is also the owner of Queenfidence, and you know we're going to talk about that. Queenfidence Global Image Consulting, and she has an electrifying, inspirational gift that empowers visionaries with confidence and clarity. I am so super excited to have Christy on the show. I just can't wait. I'm going to bring her in right now. Hello there, Christy. How are you?
Hey. Good to see you, Dr. Rhonda, again.
Yes, yes. Oh my goodness. So glad to have you. Talk to us. I had to just jump in with both feet. Tell me about this word. See, I'm an educator by profession, an English
Uh-huh.
teacher specifically. And so when we come up with these special words, I have to talk about them. So, what is queenfidence?
Mm. Queenfidence is when you embody the essence of who you are. I know for me, when I was growing up, I was full of self doubt, low self esteem, you name it. And I was making choices based on how I was seeing myself. And so, as you evolve over time and you get a sense of who you are, and then when you step into that fully, the fullness of your power, the fullness of your brilliance, the fullness of your imagination, where there are no limits, you are really stepping into powerhouse state of mind, as I call it, with a new book out. And that is queenfidence. It's confidence with a crown. It's how you conduct yourself in your everyday living. Often people think, for me as a public speaker, it's when we get on the stage. No, queenfidence shows up in every aspect of how you deal with individuals on a day-to-day basis, how you conduct yourself in your business affairs. It shows up, and it's just an indication. If there is something lacking, we can always enhance it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love how you mentioned the mindset. I'm all about that because to me, that's where it all starts. And I know
Mm,
that you specialize in that area of mindset mastery, and you're a certified radical resistance coach. Oh my goodness, I love it. You are just large and in charge in every aspect. And I love it. I love it. So, how has having the right mindset empowered
mm.
you?
It's made a big difference in one, being able to say yes to opportunities, to be able to say yes to my destiny. When you have the right frame of mind, I think about when I was at my most disempowered self, Dr. Rhonda, I would always say no, or I may overcommit because I was a people pleaser, right? And then that leads to exhaustion. So there are so many negative consequences as to not having the right mindset. When I did not have an empowered mindset, I'm thinking about my youth, that space. I lived in depression for decades, and people didn't even know. Um, Anxiety, and I often tell people, without my tools, like having the right mindset, they go in conjunction with the tools. And tools are very simple to use, but many people won't use them because there's resistance. But when I use my tools, one, if I'm finding that I'm dealing with what we call automatic negative thoughts that just pop up, right? People say, Christy, I want to be positive all the time. Okay, that's not possible, but you can pivot in your perspective, right? You can reimagine a thought, right, and reframe it that it works for you. But it's just that small space between, let's say, let me create a negative thought. Nobody likes me. It just pops up in my head. So if I want to reimagine that thought in the moment, that's what people miss. They're passive in their thinking. So this thought is going to be on repeat, because the research shows that 85% of our thoughts on repeat. You wake up the next morning, that same pattern shows up like a broken record. And so if I think nobody likes me, I'm going to keep thinking that until I disrupt it. That's where the radicalness comes in. So I disrupt that thought. Everyone likes Christy. Everyone loves her energy, right? And I start stacking beliefs. Now I'm moving into bodacious belief, and that's the power of queenfidence, honey.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So how do you break that cycle of negativity? We've heard so many words thrown around like affirmations and positive thinking,
Yeah,
journaling even. How do you
yeah.
break that cycle?
Mm. And I love that keyword break, because for me, when I hear break, boom, that's a fight. Many people don't want to put the effort into the fight. I think it was Margaret Thatcher that said some battles have to be fought more than once to be won. So they think, okay, one and done. That's not going to happen. You may have to fight multiple times, depending on how long you've been thinking that way. So there requires in these moments a constant breaking if necessary, until there are new roots. The new roots of, when I say new roots, the new beliefs. It's strong enough, right, to create brand new flowers, which ultimately leads to a beautiful new garden of thoughts. But what we're working with are the weeds, and we got to pull those weeds out that literally pull out the life of your dreams, right? They take away what you really want to cultivate. So how do we break them? It really requires some consistency, and that's every single day. Like, I can give you an example, something as simple as in my home office here. I'm surrounded by 31 vision boards, 6 vision books, but every day I'm seeing these thoughts. So that's intentionality of one, because I wake up, right? I'm not feeling like queenfidence. I don't have to depend on those feelings. I have thoughts already planned out for me. What did I say that I wanted to feel? So embrace your own beauty. Strong is beautiful. My thoughts tell me how I want to be in this world. Those preconceived thoughts, not the automatic negative thought that may pop up. I get an email and something's on it that I didn't want to see. And I'm thinking, okay, I wasn't planning on doing that in my day, right? But I can look at these thoughts that have already intentionally designed for me. And that's why I say we live by design and not default. Many people are on that default setting, letting life happen to them rather than letting life happen to you. You happen to life. You happen to show up with energy. You happen to show up, right, with creative ideas. You happen to show up with all this energy that it's more than people can handle. You happen. So you have to be deliberate in how you decide to show up. Every time I get on camera, I am dressed to impress. I am dressed for success and nothing less. That's a decision, right? That's a part of who I am because I care about one, my energy. I care about how I appear to the world. I could easily go for a 2-star, right? But I don't want to live at 2-star. Mediocrity is overrated. Everyone's doing it. So if we're going to stand out, and especially in a crowded marketplace, it does require consistency. To me, this is a part of my routine. So you say, how do you break a habit? I have to create new habits, break that cycle. I create new habits that reflect how I want to be, what I'm growing into, even before I get to. That requires vision.
Whew. Whew. I am just so full right now. You are pouring into me, and I know you're pouring into our viewers and our listeners. Oh my goodness. My mind is all the way back on to the 31 vision boards until it hit me. Oh, one for every day of the month. Okay. I got it. I don't know if that's your reality or not, but that's what I was thinking. And I'm like, okay, she got it covered. That is fantastic. That is fantastic. And it just like you said, you don't have to worry about the thoughts because you have been intentional in planning on how you're going to think. And I love that.
I
The
love that.
consistency, the intentionality, that is fantastic. And so I know you are a TEDx Audacious Leadership keynote speaker, and we've seen all of that already. But talk to us about the leadership piece, because one of the things
Mm,
that I find as leaders, we have no problems pouring out.
mm,
Sometimes we have problems being poured into. And because of that, we're trying to pour from an empty cup and we're wondering why nothing's coming out. So how do you
mm.
stay full? How do leaders, because and I've been in ministry for over 30 years. I've been in education for 15. I've been a school principal, so I understand leadership. I understand what that means. I understand the weight of it, the responsibility of it, and the pressures of it. I understand it all. But I also understand that as leaders, if we don't have a safe
Mm.
space where we can be poured into, we're a ticking time bomb. So how do you address that side of leadership?
Hmm. Yeah, you hit it right on the head, and I'm so glad, excuse me, that you're bringing this into the conversation, Dr. Rhonda, because it's literally the number one thing I hear. Individuals that are called to lead, too much is given, much is required. We understand that, and it is our own personal responsibility to create, I call, a wellness plan. If you don't, you mentioned earlier, you're planning the way you think, and it's the same concept. You have to plan care for yourself because there is a constant demand on what we have on the inside of us. And you're right, we'll start pouring out, pouring out. And I remember I've been in a space of burnout multiple times throughout my own journey, entrepreneurial leadership, and every single time I get better at caring for Christy while she's caring for others. And one of my mindset shifts was I deserve the same lavish love that I extend to others. I deserve the same lavish love that I extend to others. And what was that going to look like? I designed my own wellness plan. And a part of that is having a wellness squad, like you mentioned, a safe space. So that encompassed a therapist, a master coach, like my wellness squad, mental health coach, a physical health coach. I'm a part of a gym, so I attend group fitness classes. Going back to what makes you full, dancing, Zumba, it makes me full. Even down to something simple as you mentioned, journaling, but coloring, because as leaders, we're constantly conceptualizing, right? We have, if you create keynotes as myself, I have to create the message, Two, I'm at to study, I have to do all my research, right? Then I had to synthesize all the information. People don't really think you just stand on the stage in the pretty dress. I have to synthesize that information. And that's just one role, right? That's the keynote. There's so many other pieces that are in the puzzle that require my brain power. So if I don't take care of myself, what happens is I'm going through life exhausted. And I just personally, I refuse to live exhausted, because that's a dishonoring of myself. And I don't want to dishonor myself. I did that in my youth. So if we're evolving and we're getting better at being us, taking care of us, only you can decide that. That has a personal commitment, because I've done it on the other side where there wasn't a plan in place. And believe you me, I did it, but I didn't do it well. WELL, whole, heal, full. So I believe with working with wellness in mind, I think it's a key so that we can love what we're doing while we're doing it.
That is fantastic. That's wonderful. Wow. You know, I'm listening to you talk, and as I mentioned, my background in education, I'm all about language and vocabulary. Uh, when it comes to ministry, I'm all about the delivery and the everything that goes along with that. People think that preachers, just grab a scripture and holler a few times and spin around and that's it. That may be for some, but that's not
Yeah.
how I was hardwired. You have to know your lesson,
Mm,
you know,
study, show yourself
and
approved.
have something to say of value.
Mm,
And listening to you, one of the things that is really coming across to me is not just your mindset, which is
mm,
clear. You've got that nailed down. But then to me, the second step would be your words. And you're using
mm,
some very, very positive words. Even your voice inflection is very positive. And I
yeah.
know people may think, well, Dr. Rhonda, that's very trivial. To me, it's powerful because I do believe the book of Proverbs says death and life are in the power of the tongue. And so,
Yes.
you can either live or die by what you say. And Jesus even said, "You will
Mm,
have whatsoever you say." To me, that verse just blows my mind because if I can have and will have whatsoever I
mm,
say, I better watch this
mm.
mouth and speak those things that become sound doctrine and speak what he says to speak. And so I'm not trying to preach here. I'm just acknowledging the fact that your word choices are so powerful. And does that factor in to your work with your clients, mindset and word choices and well, actually, even in your bio, you use the term magnetic messaging. So talk to us about the messaging because that's words.
It absolutely is, and you're right in the vein, because your words are going to create what? The thoughts. The thoughts to create the emotions. The emotions motivate you. They think about it. If those thoughts were sad thoughts, now I'm moving into feelings of depression, feelings of apathy, whatever that thought, that word led into the emotion, that type of emotion. There are many emotions that despair, right? Those are low energetic words. So if I'm thinking those words, that's what's going to create the emotion. The emotion going to create the action. What comes along with a sad emotion? Typically, you don't want to move. You just may sit in your bed and start binging, eating your unhealthy foods, right? All of that started with the thought. Whatever that initial thought was, the automatic negative thoughts that I alluded to earlier. So, yes, I want to be intentional about high empowered words, high level words, powerhouse words, energetic words that are full of life, because I understand that those words create a brand new reality. Even before I even met my husband, I was single for about 13 years. And that's when my first vision book was created. Because I remember being young and I was making all the wrong choices. And I remember reading a quote, Dr. Rhonda. It said, "We date at the level of our self esteem." Well, remember, I had low self esteem. And I was wondering, why am I attracting all these jokers, that treat me wrong? So I started creating Christy. Who is Christy? That was the first question I asked. Who am I? And I started from there and started building. And so I am now 50, right? So it's 31 vision boards with those 6 vision books, 40 completed journals. I've been studying me and constantly making adjustments. So this just didn't happen overnight. This is decades of self-development. And so when we look at the words that we use, I created a vision. It was about 60 bullet points. The man that I marry, these are the attributes that I want to see. It was no more dating by default. I was intentional. And I'm telling you, 99.9, that is the man that I married, down to thoughtfulness I had, how he dresses. My husband color coordinated. That was in the vision. It was in the vision. So I understand that it does work if we believe it works, because it's all about, too, what you believe. All things are
Yes,
possible when you believe. That's the key.
yes, 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 yes. People uh, from all backgrounds uh, throw around that word manifestation.
Mhm.
I've heard it to the positive. I've heard it to the negative. It's I'm kind of, I think about that word, and I mean, I can describe it all day long, but I'm like,
Yeah.
I want people to be clear about what I'm talking about. What is manifesting? Um, but I've also heard it um, referred to as the law of attraction.
Mhm.
For those of us in church, we just call it faith.
It's faith. They try to jazz up our stuff.
Yes, yes. And I love how um you had a vision for who you wanted to marry. And I tell you, I wish more young adults were listening to this
Mm.
podcast and watching this video right now, because they need to know they don't have to accept just anything. You took the time to figure out what it is you want, and you stuck to it. And that
Yeah.
is phenomenal, phenomenal. And I am so glad the Lord blessed you with a great
He
husband. That
did.
is fantastic. And yeah,
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
and he is supporting your vision. Obviously, that is very obvious.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's a big part of it too.
yes, yes, absolutely. Because for women like us who are visionaries, sometimes that vision is so big and audacious
Yes.
until we have to have somebody in our corner who believes us when they can't see
Mhm.
it. Like, I believe you. I don't have any words for that vision, but because you said it, okay, I'm with you. And it sounds
Mm.
like you have that going on with you. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That is
That going
wonderful.
back to creating the vision, Dr. Rhonda, I was specific. I didn't want a man that was going to clip my wings, because I know I'm a dreamer. I've been a dreamer my whole life. I'm just an adult dreamer, right? I'm a woman with a vision. I was a girl with a dream, and I'm a woman with a vision. And even right before this interview, he came in the office, wanted to give a kiss on the cheek and encourage me, do your best, be focused fully in the moment. I believe in you. You're my wife, you're my queen. And that's just what he does naturally. That was a part of the vision, somebody that would affirm me. And I get that every single day, not just holidays,
Oh.
every single day.
That's wonderful. Hats off to Mr. Kennedy. That is
Award,
fantastic. I'm sorry, what did you say?
Ward. Yeah, I go by my maiden name in business, but
Okay.
yeah, he's
All
Ward.
righty. So sorry.
No
Okay.
problem.
But I am telling you, it is so refreshing to see someone who is living their dream and making things happen. And the term limiting beliefs does not reside in your space. I can
Absolutely.
tell that. I can definitely tell that. Do you find um, when you come across people who just they're so attached and bound to this is how we've always done it. This is the life I've always known. That is it's not impossible to break that, but getting them to that point of seeing that
Mhm.
more is possible is
Yeah.
it's interesting, and I just do you encounter that with the people that you work with sometimes?
Yeah, I did over 3,600 calls, and the reason why I'm so passionate about mindset mastery, even now more than ever, is because I've sat with leaders, and in my mind, I wish I could just download, like you said, this limitless mentality. It's really a divine gift from God. I can't take credit for it, but I've been honing it, right? It was always there. But when I sit with individuals, especially leaders, that is one of the most difficult things to see, because I can see that it's just a thought. But going back to you asking what does it require to break the cycle, it's the work, it's the effort, because what happens is we get into that natural groove, and the brain loves what it's familiar with, even if it's not effective. Right? It doesn't work for us anymore. We've outgrown it. We know it. I'll give you an example. New clients coming. I work with her a year ago, but she's coming back to me and wants to work again, going back to mindset stress. But because she did not address the issues initially, what's happening is now she's starting to see the body respond. That's what happens. We start with the thought, but now your body starts responding because you've been ignoring these thoughts, and now you become unhealthy physically. And that's the dangerous part. So insomnia, migraines, depression, weight gain, all those different things. So now you're talking about, I need to leave my job. It just gets progressive. If we don't address it, it's going to make us address it. And that's the piece. I try to help people get ahead of it before it gets to that point, because it doesn't have to get to that point, but it does require some intentionality, the mindfulness, being aware of how you're feeling. I often call them self check-ins. Like, I'm always checking in with myself. How am I feeling? Even with the election results, I knew a lot of people were upset. Now, I I overall focus on well-being, right? Your strong mind, strong body, strong spirit. Going back to self-care, this is not an environment that I want to put myself in, right? So I'm going to really be focusing on pouring into me. So when I do come back and they're in a space where they can calm down, they can hear, because we call those strong emotions. When somebody's in a place of that high volatility, and it's like the volcano has erupted, it's not about to erupt, it's erupted. That's not the time to be delivering, right, these nuggets. They can't even receive them because these emotions are too high. They have to come back down. You get back to your self-regulated center. Now you can hear what I have to say. So I'm going to be feeding me. So all those things matter in how I move throughout my day. But a client, if they don't learn how to, challenge the thought, because it's going to show up, but you got to learn how to challenge. I often say catch it, challenge it, and change it. 3 steps. Catch it in the moment, challenge it, and change it. Because you can ask yourself, is that true? Is that how I want to be? Is that how I want to think? Whatever that challenge looks like, when you ask yourself those questions, what is triggering me? What is making me upset right now? We don't do enough introspection.
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree with you. It's so important that we deal with those thoughts when they come up, and just like you said, challenge it. And is it true? I love that. I love that. So, Christy, I know that you're a dreamer. So I'm sure 2025 is almost planned out for you. But
Oh, it starts with the vision board.
yes, yes. So what's next for you, if you want to share? What's one thing that's next for you? Because I think there's a book out there, isn't there?
Yes, we just released a new book, Powerhouse State of Mind, and it is available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. Just Google. So I'll be promoting that piece, preparing for new keynotes in the new year. I'm developing a podcast, Powerhouse State of Mind podcast. I'm relaunching, because it was Queenfidence Lifestyles, but I really wanted to focus on speaking to leaders in their mindset shifts, their challenges, and how do they operate in a peak state daily, what they learn about the mindset. So I really want to dig a little more into that, and hear different perspective from leaders. So creating a movement around powerhouse state of mind, going back to, this is like the new iteration of my mental health, mental mastery work, in the
Mhm.
confidence belief, because that's the number one thing. Women say, Christy, I want to be more confident. Well, it starts with the mind. What are the confident thoughts that you'd like to think every single day that's going to allow you to step into that confident state? the confident actions. And I'll tell them some days you may not feel confident. I don't always feel confident, right? But I can design some beliefs and I can build myself back up, or I could step into a different state. If I'm not feeling my most confident self, I tell them there are more than one emotion out there. I could go into, I'm going to be compassionate with myself today. Today, I just need to be full of love for me, and I can still show up, right? I may not focus on confidence, but I'm showing up loving. So
Mm.
when that's called psychological flexibility. When we have that psychological flexibility, we can move in and out of those states and not lose any momentum. And that's the key, because when I was younger and I had all these disempowering thoughts floating around, I would stop and start. Have you ever experienced that? You stop and start because you're talking yourself out of what you desire to create and have. So I said, let's start talking ourselves into something rather than talking ourselves out of something.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Well, I tell you, Christy, you have just motivated me today. And I know our listeners and our viewers are going to be so excited and want to hear more. I know they're going to want to hear more. And so, where can people find you?
Mm. The main hub, queenfidence.com, QUEENFIDENCE.com. So you want to learn about any of my programs on social media under Christy Y. Kennedy. Just search for Christy, KRISTIEY Kennedy.
Okay. So I think I got this. There we go. Queen Fidence. Did I spell it right on the
Yes, you
screen?
did. Good
Okay.
job.
Queenfidence.com. All righty. It'll also be in the show notes. Christy, this has been a powerhouse conversation with you. Thank you for making it so electrifying and so relevant. And
Oh,
I really appreciate you being on the show. And
thank
I
you.
expect great things from you. I know there are going to be great things to
Yeah.
come.
You
So
as well keep leading with love.
thank you. Thank you. So if you will just hang out just for a minute, I will wrap up the show and I'll be right back with you. Okay.
Okay.
I told you. Yes, I did. I told you. I said before I got started that I've met some of the best people this side of heaven. And as they say, I ain't never lied about that. So this was a phenomenal interview with the lovely Christy Kennedy. Amazing, amazing, amazing. We've talked about leadership. We've talked about mindset mastery. We've talked about queen finesse. And if you're just tuning in and you're wondering, what did she say? I said queen finesse. You'll need to rewind and listen to this again because I'm telling you, this is one episode worth putting on repeat because you want to hear what Christy is saying about how to break cycles to develop that mindset of mastery where you are dealing with and challenging your thoughts that you're having and you're choosing to overcome them. Mindset is a choice, whether negative or positive. It is a choice. If you choose to stay negative, you're going to be negative. But if you choose to be positive, when the negative thoughts come, you'll know what to do and you'll have an arsenal of tools to help you overcome those negative thoughts with positive ones. I am so excited because one of my biggest takeaways from this interview is that doing nothing is not the answer. People want change. People want to be different. We're headed to the end of the year. People are going to start thinking about New Year's resolutions. You know, the ones that you set last year and that haven't come to pass yet because we have not taken action. Therein lies the key. We have to take action and we have to take consistent action. And so it's kind of like I had a friend years ago. She was always starting her diet on Monday. Every time I talk to her, her diet starts on Monday. It could be Tuesday, it's starting the following Monday. You know how that ended up, right? Mhm. So we have to take consistent action for the changes that we want, for the mindsets that we so desperately need to have in order to produce the lifestyles that we want. you need to get in contact with Christy. She is at queenfidence.com. Reach out to her because she's got some things to pour into you that will absolutely change your life. I know I've been changed and I've been impacted so positively by this interview, and I know you will too when you reach out to her. So until the next time, be blessed, be encouraged, but most of all, be empowered. And I'll see you on the next edition of Empowered Heart to Heart.